Alright, hello again to anyone who might be watching. Today I'm going to be doing another deck profile, this time on my Mono Nature mid-range deck. Before I get started, I just want to say a couple things. The first is I hope you can endure the video quality again. I'm hoping in the future I can get my brother behind a camera or at least helping out, and we can improve that, but until then we'll make do with what we got. And another point I wanted to make too is I know the way I've kind of been presenting my cards, especially with the quality I've been presenting them in, um, it can be hard for people who might not know what the cards do, especially because I'm not saying the effects or reading off the effects. But for the kind of content I want to make, I want to focus more on explaining like what the cards' purposes are, why I'm playing them, as opposed to just telling you what they do. So I'm kind of assuming that the people watching the video will already know or be familiar with the cards. So anyways, with that, I guess we can jump into the video. Hopefully this one will be a little bit more digestible than the last. So here it is. Of course, it's going to be heavily derived from D-list Brian Jessing used to win the last Kaijudo championship, but I think it's ended up being 9 cards different than the list he used to play. I think 6 of those are additions from the open format. But I guess we can start with this side. There's not really going to be much in the way of contention with these slots. I think most of the contention in the build will come with the early drop creatures that you choose to play. But jumping in with the Evos, you're basically just playing all the best nature Evos that exist, at least all the ones that don't require a specific race. Charging Great Claw to start off with is just another, 4 mana, 6,000 power double breaking evolutions have just been good since Evil Fury came out. Even like Axon, things like that, like even just straight up vanillas, they've always been somewhat playable. Just the big thing is it's just a big tempo push. When you can upgrade a creature, like a small dorky creature that massively, it's just actually really good, or just threatening like a really cheap big haste threat. That is something really powerful. And with Charging Great Claw, just being able to recoup the advantage, like when you invest like a small creature into evolving Charging Great Claw, it actually just unleashes and it nets you back a resource to replenish the one that you invested into the evolution in the first place, which is a big reason this deck is so good. Is there's so many ways to replenish resources as you go that you almost always will have follow-up plays, because you're not needing to mana extra cards in your hand to play the rest of your hand. Like you can always kind of just sit on mana, and you're not running out of cards to play. And a big reason is a lot of like the cards like Broodmother, Charging Great Claw, Anjak, Rollcore, even Sunclan Tortoise, things like that. They'll all, almost every card in the deck regenerates or recuperates some kind of resource for you. Moving on, Anjak, of course, just an incredibly powerful evolution, one of the best, probably up there is one of the best nature creatures in the game. Just so resilient as well. Just when you're playing an aggressive attacking game, just having this threat is just a really sticky threat. Like your opponent will have to answer it, but then it's leaving behind a body, whether that be like a hexproof turnip that gives you just another threat, or a Broodmother to recuperate some hand. It just leaves you, or it just leaves your opponent in a really big bind a lot of the time, and it's just dominating the battlefield as just an 8k. Yeah, just an incredibly powerful card. Beastlord Rollcore, another powerful card. This one, again, it's just kind of the same theme. Like it's a giant creature. Like you just upgrade one of your small creatures, you just play a huge threat, just 9,000 power double breaker, and then it all at the same time as you're just applying immense pressure on them with this giant evolution, you're recuperating resources. You get perhaps another evolution to hand for a follow-up play. You get a creature to the board so that you can evolve that minion next turn. You get again, it's just kind of disgusting how you can play such a proactive game while also just maintaining a level of resource that you wouldn't expect for that kind of deck. And yeah, Boulder Fist again, this card is just insane top end. Just being able to offer some kind of sweeper that's a rarity in this game, to be honest, and even just evolving on something as small as a Prickleback. Like there are plenty of 2k blockers that people might play that you can just, if they're relying on a few blockers, like maybe Gloomhollow for example, like you can just clear that out of the way and attack clean for 3 shields. Like it's just a great top end card. It's just another just powerful card to play to. Broodmother, I would consider this. I would have to kind of do a run through on it, but I think it has a big place, or a big. It's a big contender for the best green creature in the game. Um, Maybe even best green card. I think that one might be a little more contested, but it's definitely up there with the most powerful nature cards that have been printed. And it's definitely a warping card. Like, there's a big reason you saw such a move to just creature only decks, or incredibly creature heavy decks, and Broodmother is a big incentive for that. It's just such a powerful card. Being able to just draw 2 cards is like, it just leaves you with so many follow-up plays, because now you can set up a cheap creature and an evolution, or you can hit land drops now, and now you can actually curve out up to 6 or 7 mana, 7 or 8 mana even, so that you can play your Raw Core on a bait in the same turn. It just gives you the resources to hit further land drops and also just dig to your powerful cards. Sumo Artichoke, this card, it's just like the best green Shield Blast you can play. Like, when you're wanting an all creature deck to make sure that you never whiff, Sumo Artichoke, of course, is the best green Shield Blast creature, and it's also just one of the best green Shield Blasts. I think that and Tendril Grasp are probably the two. Not counting Sprout. Sprout might be up there as one of the best nature cards anyways, but that aside, Sumo Artichoke is almost like the green Storm Spark Blast. Like, it's actually just an insane defensive Shield Blast in a lot of situations, and at worst case, it's just going to be you plop a 3k creature out there that can either attack or evolve into something bigger. So it's just a good card. You could make an argument, I suppose, if you wanted to be incredibly aggressive, build this deck incredibly aggressively, you could just add another 2-drop, or something like that. I guess you could lower the curve and just deny any kind of defense, but it's just such a good defensive card. You should probably be playing it. So yeah, that's that. I don't think there's much contention here. All these cards are just really powerful cards, really core to the strategy, all transfer over from the standard format. The big shift I made was probably moving more towards the lower curve of the 1-drops. When you look at the changes I made, I think when you break it down, I cut the Crick Ants, which is a 2-drop, the Jackalaxes, which are a 2-drop, and then I cut a Muktak and the 2, I think 3-drop Protector that goes to mana when it dies. I forget what it's called, but anyways, I cut 3 3-drops, which I guess you could say I put in Pricklebacks for that, so that's lowering the curve. And then I cut 3 of the 2-drops for, like, you could say Crick Ant. I just cut for Chameleon, so I lowered the curve there. And then I just think the 1-drops are so important. Like, I think Horn Chameleon, when you compare it directly to Crick Ant, I think you could argue that the attacker is really important, especially like against the more aggressive decks. Being able to plop out an attacker from your shields so that you can race is really important, but Horn Chameleon can contest the board. It's probably better from hand than Crick Ant in those matchups anyways, just having a 1-drop you can play, especially in a format with Blaze Belcher. Just having a 1-drop you can play to contest Blaze Belcher on the draw even is going to be much more important. And at that too, when it comes out of your shields, often you're just going to evolve it anyways, or you need something to evolve onto, so you might as well. So there's not a huge difference there in terms of being able to attack or not. And I just think the 1-drop is so important. Again, like, dating back to Evil Fury, just having the tempo plays available of just being able to play a cheap bait and then an evolution in the same turn, it's just super crucial. So moving towards the 1-drops, I think, is super, super powerful for the deck, and they also work really well in Jarbala Hatchery, just almost netting you mana, being able to play, like, follow up a Hatchery with 1-drop Broodmother, 1-drop Anjac. It just gives you so much more in terms of follow-up than you might otherwise have. Yeah, that would be the 1-drops. The 2-drops, there's more contention here. I think when I initially built this deck, I had Jackalax over Savage Spawn. I wanted to try Chief Many Tribes, so I fit that in, and I thought Jackalax was a better card, but I ended up kind of moving back towards Savage Spawn just because when I added this other skirmisher, I just wanted to make sure I had enough attacking creatures so you can still kind of kill quickly. Like, I think a lot of the time when you're trying to race or be incredibly aggressive, you're sort of relying on having like a 2-drop that might be able to chip in for shields in some matchups. Not all the time, but I think it's important to have access to that. So I wanted to make sure I had another attacking 2-drop. And Savage Spawn is a pretty good card in its own right. You winning flashes fairly often, and being able to get an extra resource is, like, sometimes, occasionally is going to be pretty powerful. And then Chief Many Tribes is the other addition from Open. I've actually been liking the card. I know it can be awkward sometimes, like you might not want it to run it on to turn 2, but you maybe feel like you have to in certain situations, but and it's going to be kind of weak in those, but um, for me, I think the card is just offers a lot in terms of some of the explosive plays of the deck, and being able to commit an extra creature to the board while still hitting your land drops can be really powerful. Like you might want to just mana your 2-drop, like you might have just otherwise managed your Crickant or your Jackal-Axe to hit your land drop so you can play like a bigger evolution the next turn, but with Chief Many Tribes you get to commit an extra creature to the board while still hitting that land drop, which I think is just a really powerful, like when it's on, just a 2-mana 1000 that draws a resource is actually just an insanely powerful card. So, and if you're going to play it in any deck, it's going to be Modern Nature, so I wanted to give it a shot, and it's been pretty impressive. I think one of the things about 2-drops though that's kind of weird to Kaijudo is they do feel kind of replaceable. Like a lot of it is just marginal difference. Like you can make a lot of arguments, even when it comes to like just a 2000 versus a 1000 power attack. A lot of people kind of constantly sort of defaulted to playing the card with the effect, but it's a lot of just marginal thinking between the 2-drops. And I think like another example is Ambush Scorpion versus Manapod Beetle. You can make an argument that Ambush Scorpion having the extra 1000 power is going to be better than Manapod dying, but again, a lot of it goes to people just playing the cards with the effects. But I think that's more of a testament to how strong just a 2-drop creature in Kaijudo is, just because they attack for like the same as any other creature in terms of damage. Like the 2-drops are just a lot more powerful than maybe in the average game, and I think it's less of it's more of a testament to the power of just an average 2-drop as opposed to an indictment on how weak maybe the 2-drops available are. So that's just a kind of side tangent on 2-drops that I was thinking about. But anyways, carrying on with the deck, Jarbala Hatchery. I think this is a really important piece for the deck. It gives you some super explosive plays. Again, the 1-drop's really playing into that. A lot of the time you don't want to play them in the same turn. I think that's something you could embrace more as like more 2-drops. One of the benefits is just being able to hatchery 2-drop in the same turn and get some mana advantage right away. But that can be decent, but I think the 1-drops are more important for follow-up plays. So you won't really want to go Jarbala Hatchery, Prickleback in the same turn. A lot of the time you're going to save the Prickleback for next turn, and then the Jarbala Hatchery is really ramping you, because now at that point you can go Prickleback and Jacker. Prickleback Broodmother is a great follow-up, so where you might not otherwise be able to do that. Like before, if you're just playing mono 2-drops, then you wouldn't be able to have those same follow-ups. You would have to go like 2-drop into Charging Great Claw if you wanted to do something like that. Like you could always just evolve on the Hatchery, but in general it's just such a powerful card, you want to keep it in play. Like it just enables some really, really powerful draws. Especially when you're on the play. When you're on the play, even like the removal decks, they're not going to have many answers to it. Like Bone Blades is only going to work when they're when they're going first, and the cards that could answer it are just not commonly played, like Snake Trap, Waylay, things like that, I guess. So yeah, when you untap with it is really powerful, and you untap with it a fair amount of the time. And Tricky Turnip, I mean, hard to argue against Hexproof, just a really powerful card in Kaijudo, and it works great with Anjak. It's just great with evolutions, just having a creature that sits there and that you can plop an Evo on whenever you see fit is just going to be important. Rounding out the deck, you have, I guess I'll cover Muktak. Muktak is kind of an awkward card. I just feel like it's the worst of the 3-drops, and like it's a great hit off of Rollcore a lot of the time, but it's not super needed. I've just kind of felt it was a little bit, it's a little medium. You're not really casting it too often. Like typically in the early game, you're putting it in mana to cast your Hatchery or your turn up a lot of the time anyways, or even your Sunclan Tortoise. So it's kind of just like an extra late game engine. You could make an argument even for cutting it, but I think it's just a nice option to have. Again, like a great hit off Rollcore. So on from that, I guess the last card would be Sunclan Tortoise. I know this card has gotten some hate in the past, but I think it's actually pretty good. Like, sure, it's a 3-drop creature that draws you a card, which is really good, but it's a 3-drop creature that draws you probably the worst card in your deck, which sounds bad, but if you compare it to, even, let's get a little hyperbolic, let's compare it to Aquahulkus. Like, Sure, it's a bad Aquahulgus, but there's a lot of room below Aquahulgus to still be a good card. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I think Suncline Tortoise, just being able to play a 3-drop, get back another creature, and it's going to be a land. Like, just a 3-drop that draws you a land is fine, because that land is replacing maybe an actual good card that you would have to put in mana. Now you can just put the Sunclan. So just a 3-drop that draws a card, and the body's kind of irrelevant. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're just going to evolve on it most of the time anyway. So just playing a bait creature that gets you your land so that you can continue to hit land drops, continue to progress up to your bigger threats. I think it plays an important role in the deck. I think it definitely warrants a slot. Particularly because you're evolving it. If you're not playing the green evolution creatures, it's harder to justify because that 1k body is really going to hurt you. But when you're playing 12 evolutions, like, it's much better, especially when you start to factor in some of the plays you can make with hatchery. But that's my thoughts on the majority of the deck. I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about with the list. Yeah. As always, let me know what you thought about the deck, maybe some of my choices. Yeah, give me your feedback, maybe about the video itself. Another thing I forgot to mention too is let me know what you might like to see in the future. I know I have some kind of ideas for posting a few more decks that I have built, maybe doing some kind of more discussion-oriented videos where I kind of want to talk about maybe like the best cards in Fire, maybe the best cards in Nature, do some top 10s or something like that. That's something I've been thinking about. But yeah, just let me know what kind of content you would like to see, and I can consider doing that. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the video, and thanks for watching. Bye.